Greetings everyone, this is Black Witch Diary here with my friend Robert, and today we are going to be introducing our new course, which is working with Santa Muerte. So I already did a part one of this about a year ago now, just over a year ago, and I really wanted to expand upon this. My personal practice with Santa Muerte has grown a hell of a lot. And this has kind of motivated me to get started on some new content around this. So, before we go into this, I also just wanted to give an update with obviously our last video was about introducing the initiation into life and death. So we've been a little bit quiet about it because this is a really in-depth thing that we're doing, and it's something that we can't really rush into. That stuff isn't a course. It's more of a learning program, like with like mentorship involved and stuff like that. And we're being quite selective with who we have take part in that. And there's a consultation form to fill out. So just a reminder that if you would like to apply to that, you can sign up for the mailing list and you will be emailed a consultation form and you will get a response from us. But anyway, so this video is going to be just us talking about what we have planned. And yeah, just a rundown of what we've got coming up. So the course, we are planning to release the first kind of part to it this coming Friday. So I believe that is Friday, the 1st of March. And so we're going to be releasing it in increments just so that we can get the ball rolling. And there will be a link in the description. So the thing about working with Santa Muerte, I feel like she's appealing to a lot of people because she is essentially willing to work with anyone. However, this does not mean that she'll be willing to work with you at the time that you want to work with her. You may have to wait until she decides that it's the right time. And this might feel frustrating, but it's for a reason, and that does need to be respected because she is deaf. So in my experience with Santa Muerte, I didn't feel like there was a strongest connection straight away. It took me a lot of time to work at that. It took a lot of dedication, years actually, to form the relationship with her that I have today. And at this point, I want to hand over to Robert so that he can share a little bit about his experience.
Hello. So I knew death before I knew Santa Morte, basically. I've had four near-death experiences in my life, which has brought me closer to death than most people. So when I initially struck up a relationship with Santa Morte, it was quite easy. But that's not the case for everyone. So I'm not going to say that my case is a unique case. I know that near-death experiences are a common thing, but just to be aware, like don't go causing near death experiences to happen just so you get a closer connection to Santa Muerte. Disclaimer right there. I do not endorse attempts, basically. Um, but yeah, so no, so Santa Muerte, Dara actually introduced me to Santa Muerte, which was amazing. So it's a great privilege to be doing this course alongside her right now. But yeah, it was basically for me with Santa Morte, it was like a primal calling to do right in the world. And Santa Morte does that. Being deaf, she doesn't really care for the material trappings of the world. And basically, like myself, I don't really care about that stuff at all. So it was a match made in a liminal space, shall we say. So yeah, I know how serious it is to have a relationship with Santa Morte. And like Dyra said, it requires a lot of dedication, a lot of upkeep, and you have to be serious about what you want, because you're essentially dancing with death at this point. and death does not mess about at all. Um, if you say you want something with her and you're not willing to do what needs to be done to uphold your end of the bargain, then that's not a really good place to be sitting at for anyone, let alone a magician. If anyone's done any previous deity work in the past, then you'll know that not upholding your end of the bargain with any deity is a bad idea anyway, let alone with death, who is literally going to be there at the end of your life.
I feel like I learned the hard way about taking her as seriously as she is meant to be taken. Um, and for me, like working with Santa Muerte, like everyone kind of knows me for me being a Luciferian witch of the left hand path. And that's kind of my um kind of my thing. But Santa Muerte came before that. I kind of like how my journey into this started with death. I think that's very fitting. And I feel like she was kind of sort of an initiator into what my craft is now. Like I was never told directly with her to be working with demons or anything like that, but kind of just getting used to her current and the part of her current that is the darker part, which we'll talk about aspects soon because that's going to be the first part of the course that's going to be released. um Becoming aligned with that and then that evolving into what I do now. So I do feel like she's definitely kind of been this like initiator for me into what my craft has become. But yeah, as Robert said, she doesn't mess about. I have felt her wrath, um, but I've also felt her love. And I'm very pleased to say that I've felt her love far much more than I felt her wrath. So yeah, like I said, the first part of the course is going to be about her aspects. So for those who don't know what I mean by that, if you look into Santa Muerte, you will see that she is presented in several colors. So you might see her in black, white, red. Those are the kind of traditional, almost used ones. But you may also see 7 color statues. And there are also aspects of her that are less used or less known. So this is the first part of things we're going to be going into about her aspects and about how to work with her aspects, because I don't think that people understand that some aspects are harder to work with than others, and her energy manifests differently. So, for example, if you're really used to working with Nina Blanca, which is white Santa Muerte, and then you work with Nina Negra, which is her black aspect for the first time, you might be in for the shock of your life, because that is, in my
Yeah,
experience, one of the most demanding and intense aspects in terms of what it does to what it brings up for me. Essentially we're dealing with death. So whenever I've worked with Santa Muerte in her black aspect, I might have a period of maybe unprocessed grief come up. And, these kind of emotional episodes of emotional turmoil that could potentially come up, and it's something one needs to be prepared for, because you're not going to have a deep relationship with Santa Muerte if you're not diving into if she's not prompting you to dive into some shadow stuff as well. And that can be very, very challenging, but also very rewarding. So yeah, we're going to be going into that, giving some ritual examples, as well as I want to go into how to make oils for working with her aspects. So you'll see this this isn't a plug, but you'll see on if you look at my Etsy shop at all, you'll see that I have oils for 10 of her aspects. And so I want to kind of show you how you can make an oil that represents Nina Blanca for working with Nina Blanca. So yeah, I'll hand back over to Robert to speak a little bit more on the aspect stuff.
So yeah, like Dara said, each aspect basically comes with its own pluses, minuses, nuance, etc. So as Dara rightly said, Nina Negra is no joke at all. And Nina Negra is the aspect I work with most. I do a lot of necromantic work. I don't know if you could guess that from the image behind me, but I mostly work with realms of the dead. And being that she is death, it kind of goes hand in hand to work with death itself. Um, but it's not for the faint of heart. What I've noticed is a lot of people want to work with Nina Negra because she's big and scary and can get the more baneful work done, if you will. But that's not entirely true. Any aspect of Santa Morte can do both baneful and not so baneful workings. But Nina Negra is often called upon by the Mexican cartels to do such things as death workings, etc., etc. So when I'm talking about being serious, you have to be very serious. And when I've encountered Nina Negra at every point in my life when she's came up, it has been around times of mass turmoil, because she will basically go in, put her skirtle hand into your life and rip out every cancerous tendril that no longer belongs in your existence. And for some people, they're not ready to let go of those things. So before undertaking any working with her, please initially work with Nina Blanca, basically, in order to shed light on your life first and to get you in the right frame of mind. Um, there was a couple of other things I wanted to say on Nina Negra, but I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to open you up to her current inadvertently. Um, all I'll say is that, as Dyra said, working with Santa Morte is one of the most rewarding experiences or relationships you'll probably ever have, um, in regards to your magical life or just your life, really. I don't really see there's any need to separate the magical and the mundane. Um, but that being said, there are certain things you need to do before engaging with certain aspects, and we will go through this in the course. I myself both work with the free color, more traditional way of working in Santa Morte, and the multicolored array of aspects as well. So I'm not entirely stuck to one place, basically. And that's because I wanted to work with her in the traditional three colorway, and she said no. I want to work with you in all of my aspects because you're going to be teaching people about the other aspects as well. So whether I liked it or not, she basically told me what to do. And I think it's really good to bring that up because she will push you outside your comfort zone. This isn't a deity to go skipping in the meadow with, singing fairy lullabies. Not at all. She will get down into, as I said before, into every aspect of your life and gut it in order to make it purified. So touching on Nina Blanca aspects there. Also to purify your desires, etc., etc., in the more Nina Roja aspect, and then to tear everything away in regards to the Nina Blanca aspect. Um, all I'll say is to kind of cap it off there for a second is that Nina Nina Negra isn't a spirit to run to because someone's wronged you. Because if someone's wronged you and it's your fault because you caused that, she's more likely to backhand you than she is the other person. So it's kind of a very tough love relationship on one end, but also a a love like no other, really, on the other end. So if someone has actually wronged you, then she will be there for you, and comfort you and resolve the issue. Um, it's really hard to talk about this without going into exact examples. But what you'll also find is that often Santa Morte swears you to an oath of secrecy. So hence why I would love to give these teachings out just freely on the internet. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you look at it, Santa Morte has asked us both to go about it in the right way.
So I think for the aspects part of the course, we are like obviously we will be delving into working with we will be delving into all of our aspects, but I think we're going to be stressing and that working with Nina Blanco is the best place to start. So most of that will be kind of tailored to that. And speaking of tailoring, I will be telling you how to tailor your offerings as well to each aspect. So moving on from aspects, we're planning on releasing segments of the course kind of on like a weekly basis. So the next segment, we're going to be covering ancestor work. And this is important um, because from my experience and from what I see online, ancestor work is something that's pushed to beginners in their craft because it's like, people are kind of like, oh, what deity should I, start working with? And, people say, oh, start with your ancestors because those are who you are directly connected to. As if it's a beginner practice. I'm not saying that this shouldn't be the case, that it shouldn't be recommended that you work with ancestors, because I think you definitely should, but um, the way it's portrayed is like it's an easy thing. And it's not. It's something that I really struggled with for a really long time. I'm not about to say that it's easy for me now, even. It's just about become sort of manageable for me. And working with Santa Muerte is what made it manageable for me because I was someone that carried a lot of baggage and resentment towards my ancestry for the ways that things panned out in my physical life, right? So basically like feeling burdened by ancestral trauma and being resentful that it was my responsibility to work through it. So for anyone who does, have I mean, most of us have trauma to some extent in our families, but some more than others. Ancestor work can be really quite tricky. So having Santa Muerte to assist you with this really benefits that practice, or that area of your practice. And I know that Robert will reflect back on this in terms of like how it's important to honor your ancestors. They're essentially the reason why you're here, and you are connected to them whether you like it or not.
It's a lot to carry the burden of your bloodline, but you have to understand that by working with your ancestors, you don't carry that burden alone. They will be there, but you have to have a certain level of maturity working with your ancestors because it'll be very easy to write them off as lesser spirits or whatever. But in reality, they're the closest thing to like how do I say this? A dependable spirit team is the term that some people use. And you should, yeah, definitely strike up a relationship with them or honor that relationship. There is one thing that I wanted to touch on, and you have to understand that not all of your ancestors are good, and not all of them are bad. Not all of them are particularly helpful either. So when you just call on your ancestors to assist you in a working, you have to be quite specific about what ancestors you work with. So hence why it is paramount to get to know them. But don't go into that relationship thinking it's going to be pleasant from the get-go, because as occultists, as magicians, as people acting on the weirder side of life, then that's spelled WYRD, not weird. There are going to be people that don't necessarily agree with your path, which will try and block your magic. They will try and do all kinds of things. So working alongside Santa Morte with that, you have her to put them in line, but you have to understand that she will want you to think for yourself in that way as well. She won't just kind of take the lead for you and show you everything you need to do. It's completely up to you to take that initiative, and she's quite rewarding if you do, because if you show willing, she'll work with you more. It's like in any kind of thing in life. Like if you show willing, then people are much more open to giving you opportunities and helping you. And it's the same with your ancestors. If you show that you're ready to fly the flag, essentially, for your hereditary, then they will help you out as well. And in the course, in the segment I'm going to be doing on ancestor work, I will be teaching you exactly how to do that to extreme efficiency. So some people I've worked with ancestors have basically said that they don't really need to work with any deities after that because they have only worked with their ancestors. And they have found that to be extremely efficient. They have also worked with a psychopomp, which Santa Morte is. For anyone that doesn't know what that is a deity that can deliver messages to the dead and bring messages from the dead, and they can also ferry souls to various realms. But yeah, it's not such a cut and dry thing. As Dyra said, it is touted, the ancestor work, sorry, is touted to people as the beginner's thing, but it's absolutely not. Like the realm of the dead is intrinsically linked with ours. So if you don't know the correct procedures, then not to scaremonger anyone here, but you're essentially a sitting duck. Like if you look at like ghost sightings and apparitions and stuff, they come without warning. They don't knock, they're just there, and it can scare the living crap out of you sometimes. So having a way of not only being able to communicate with them, if it is your ancestors, or if it's not, if you have ways to defend yourself, and enter into a bartering relationship, if you will, where you can traverse the arena of life more easily with their help, then I definitely would recommend the ancestor segment of the course.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. It reminds me of a conversation of someone with someone that I had whilst we were in Glastonbury, and was talking to someone about ancestor work, and she said that she struggles with it because when she tries to do it, it opens up. She just starts getting like random dead people coming in, right? So just to kind of bounce off of what you said about how, ancestor work, you're working with the dead, and that is essentially an advanced practice. So in terms of what I'm going to be covering in the ancestor segment, I want to show you how to make an ancestor oil. And I'm also going to be going into just altar setup, offerings, things like that. But speaking of oils, that leads us on to the next part, which is we've got a whole segment on making oils. So I've already referred to oils a couple of times, like aspect oils, ancestor oils, and there's also going to be oils for specific intentions. So I'm sort of going off of what I work with Santa Muerte for the most. So I will be showing you how to make a protection oil. I will also be doing an oil, I think, for luck and abundance. Not 100% sure on that one just yet. But I will also definitely be doing a death oil. Now, don't automatically think that that is to cause death because it is not in a physical sense. So, what I mean by death oil, it's essentially a very strong banishment oil. It's to bring about endings. So it's definitely along the lines of, like working with Nina Negra. Um, so use of caution. But yeah, I know that Robert has some really cool stuff that he's gonna be doing for oils as well.
Yes. So I'm kind of keeping my lips sealed about the majority of it right now, but it is intrinsically linked to what I spoke about before. Essentially, what I'll be offering in the Ancestor segment is an entire system of magic in regards to working with ancestral spirits and not so ancestral spirits, such as the sacred dead and the not so sacred dead. Um, if we're going to put it like that, covering all bases from blessings to baneful work, etc. But yeah, there will be oils linked to every subject within that course as well. Yeah, I'm extremely excited to unleash this. It's been a long time coming,
It
put it
definitely
that way.
has. It
But
really
yeah, the it's yeah, it's not. I don't want to under describe, but I don't want to over describe it either. But when I say it's a complete system of magic, all I'll say is go and look at mm, any tradition that you really know of, and it involves everything. Moon cycles, planets, you name it, it's in there. So this has been a labor of love for me for a long time, and yeah, I'm extremely excited to share it with you.
amazing. I have a guest here, so I'm not sure what his input's gonna be. So yeah, just to continue with the breakdown of things. Um, I think a really important thing that I wanted to cover was in terms of divination. I feel like people overly rely on tarot to get messages. So I want to branch out in terms of divination and basically show you how to expand that practice and rely more on a direct channel, more so than your divination tools. Because especially with things like tarot, like, I'm not knocking tarot at all. Like I use it every day. Um, absolutely love it. But when it comes to tarot, it's people can get a little bit too binary when it comes to the meanings behind the cards, and therefore they may miss things. This is something I've done. Um, and I've had to really kind of keep an open mind when reading cards and not just, think, oh, okay, Seven of Wands, that means this, this, and this, because if you pull I always say if you pull the same card for three different people, it's not all going to mean the same thing for everyone. Um, so yeah, I want to talk about how to expand your divination practice because I feel like this really strengthens your own intuition and connection. And Robert being a channeler is going to have some good stuff in that section as well with regards to channeling. So this is like a game of tennis, just like back to you, back to me. So
It is, yeah. So yeah, no, in regards to channeling Santa Morte in all of her aspects, I will teach you how to do that. I'll do it safely, don't worry. I won't let you get into any hot water, shall we say. So yeah, as I was saying, I do channel. My specialty is deity work, channeling not only deities but other spirits as well. So I will teach you how to use channeling as a divination method and as a way of incorporating the different aspects of Santa Morte into anything in the course, such as spell work, any sort, ancestor work as well, in order to somewhat assume a position of power. So you'll no longer be you, you will be Santa Muerte you, basically. So it's not a traditional possession. You're still in the driver's seat, but you do have, it's almost like a shard of her power, if that makes sense, which is incredibly useful. You can use it in everyday life, especially when out and about, because as I said before, the realm of the dead overlaps ours. So there's massive utility in that particular skill, if you will. But I will probably only release that content to people that I will judge myself if they're ready for it, who have probably done the other courses, the other parts of the course, if you will, because it is quite intensive and you need to be energetically compatible first. Because I like to inform people of the dangers of things. So if you aren't ready, essentially, what can happen is it can short out your energy system, which can leave you drained, and open to influences, external influences of spirits, be they dead or astral, etc. So I will go through that with a fine tooth comb and teach you every nuance possible. Okay. I do take channeling very, very seriously. So you'll be in good hands, most certainly.
Amazing. I think what I like about the layout that we've made here is it's not, I know we're releasing things, we're saying that we're releasing things like a segment per week, but it all blends really well together. You know, it's kind of hard to segment it, but we've done that for the sake of simplicity, so that we can, it's easier to talk about and it's easier to you know, tell you what it's about essentially, but it all does blend really well in together. So we're also going to be talking about approaches to working with her as well, because you know, anyone that knows about Santa Muerte, you know, knows that her links to folk Catholicism, as well as paganism, and obviously me being a left-hand path witch, it might seem strange to people that I'm essentially working with Santa Muerte, who in, you know, a lot of the time is described as a Catholic folk saint. So we will be going into that as well in terms of the approaches that you can take. I'm not someone that I'm going to be a little bit controversial here and say that I'm not someone that believes that everything should be accessible to everyone. You know, I believe that there are things that are sacred, and I believe that there are things that should be gate kept. But obviously, when it comes to working with Santa Muerte, you know, there is more than one approach you can take. So in this case, the accessibility to her is wider. And Robert, being into his Christian mysticism, will have a lot to say on the kind of Christian slash Catholic approach to this.
Absolutely. So Santa Morte was the spirit that kind of started stuff off in regards to that. And then she led me onto other things. So I know how to tread that path without taking any journeys on any wayward roads, essentially. So I'll be able to guide you properly, so you don't make the same mistakes that I did, basically. So yeah. but there's so many things, there's so many benefits to working with her on the sort of Catholic current, if you will. But there are also many benefits to working with her in other currents as well. So it's not just a split of left hand and right hand path.
Mm.
If you consider Catholicism as a right hand path, I wouldn't necessarily do that at all. Um, because I think that in Catholicism, there's a lot of misunderstandings. Being a state religion in the UK and in other countries, or Christianity at large, I don't really think it's been explored properly for its hmm, mystical content, shall we say. So yeah, but there's definitely other ways of working with her. There are other practitioners that have opened up more possibilities. And I know, speaking for myself, that I do know various ways of working with her, not just the Catholic current, essentially. So don't be dissuaded from working with her just because she is labeled as a Catholic folk saint. Just let her work with you how she wants to work with you. If that is through the Catholic current, that is through the Catholic current. If it's through the left hand path current, it's through that current. And if it's from any of the currents in between, then it's one of those. Um, as we said at the start, she will work with anyone if they're ready to work with her, essentially. But she is the judge, jury, and executioner on that decision. That is not me and Dyra gatekeeping that at all. So upon initially signing up to content, I would advise getting a divination from either myself or Dyra on that particular matter first, just to sort of point you in the right direction of what content that you should purchase. Because what we don't want is people purchasing content for the sake of purchasing content. We would rather tailor it to your path. We're not in the business of wasting anyone's time. Probably being burnt ourselves from having our time wasted. So we try to set an example of the mishaps that we've suffered along our spiritual path. So yeah, as I said before, you're most certainly in good hands.
Definitely. And for those of you that have either looked at or enrolled on the first part of the course that I released a year ago, you'll know that its name was Working with Santa Muerte, a left-hand path approach, because essentially one of my main aims with that was trying to help people adapt their practice with Santa Muerte, outside of the Catholic current, because I know for me, it's something that, you know, when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to, people would assume that with my craft that it's something I'm actively against, but something that I respond to when it comes, something I respond with when it comes down to that is if you remove the dogma, the religion itself isn't the problem. It's the dogma that causes the arguments, the controversy, um, and the misinterpretation. So in that sense, I'm really glad that we have Robert to cover the Catholic approach to those who are open to it. And for those that aren't open to it, no worries. But I know for me that once I got over the dogma, um, I didn't have an issue with the idea of her being like a Catholic folk saint or anything. So yeah, well, basically what I was trying to do with the first part of the course was, to help people work around that stuff, because, most people on the left-hand path do have an issue with it. just something I found. So yeah, I'm glad that we're covering multiple approaches so that people can find what suits them. And then I think we're gonna kind of end the content with necromancy. So cemetery work, working with the dead. And we know that cemetery work requires a certain etiquette to go by. You've got to behave a certain way in the cemetery. There's certain things you've got to do. So we will be walking you through that and showing you how to basically have a safe and effective necromantic practice. So, as we've said, it is an advanced practice. I'm kind of glad that we're kind of leaving it till the end, so it'll be like the last release of the content, and then it will be the full course. And so yeah, we have a ritual planned to do in the cemetery, which we'll be filming very soon. So I'm very excited about that. I feel like that content is going to be really, really cool. And as Robert said, working with the dead is something of a speciality for him. So he has a hell of a lot to share with you when it comes to the necromancy stuff. As for me, I would like to go over. I released I released kind of like a mini ebook about 9 months ago. It was about 15 pages, and it was just over etiquette in the cemetery, and how to be safe with it and all of this. So I'll be plucking some bits and pieces that I wrote about in there, and themes to work with, and also just like um how to find graves to work with as well, how to identify the grave you want to work with for what you plan to do, and just further into that practice of actually communicating with the dead. um so yeah, I think this is going to be my final bat back to you before we summarize. So yeah.
Cool. So yeah, yeah, as you said in regards to etiquette and stuff like that, I think that's a amazing place to do the content on. Going back to what was said in regards to Catholicism, or the more folk Catholic current, if you will, there will be a rather large portion of Catholic etiquette, if you will, whilst you are in cemeteries, because in the UK, I would say at least, well, most cemeteries are in churches, so that is considered sacred ground. So I will be teaching you as well how to approach that in a Catholic way, being respectful on holy ground, essentially, as well, because with some cemeteries, if you will, they have their guardians. And if you don't know how to communicate with those guardians, you're in for a bad time. I've known spirits to follow people home and cause complete havoc in their lives. And especially with Santa Muerte, what you'll find is that the dead are hers. You know what I mean? That's her domain. So if you're going into that cemetery and causing havoc and behaving like a hooligan, well, she's not going to be best pleased about that. And considering you're trying to strike up a relationship with her, do you really think that's a wise idea? No, not at all. So yeah, there'll be a huge emphasis on that. I don't want to turn anyone away or put anyone off, once again, with that Catholic jargon, if you will. But as Dara said, if you strip away the dogma from Catholicism, it is a amazing magical practice, really. And although I do have my hands in many magical traditions. The fact that I've been at this for a long time and have found a huge amount of worth in that tradition speaks volumes. And Dyra being a left-hand half practitioner, and well, we've had many chats about Catholicism, and I have sort of given nuggets of information about it, and sort of not educated. That sounds like I'm a teacher, right? But just kind of shown similarities between such practices, and shown the power that is in Catholicism, and by that stretch, Santa Muerte as well. I do work with saints as part of my practice, so in the necromantic practice, I will include segments on working with other saints. As some people know, she does have saints that she works with, being St. Jude, Jesus Malverde, and there's a couple of others, St. Cyprian being one, and St. Michael. So I will include things on that. I might even include pamphlets on how to work with them in regards to Santa Muerte, because they are incredibly useful to work with. St. Cyprian, for one, is a psychopomp as well, and he specializes in necromancy. So you won't just be getting content on Santa Muerte, there'll be a number of things in there as well. So yeah, over and out.
Yeah, we're both super excited about this, and relieved that we're finally like kind of got all the concrete plans together and are getting it off the ground. It's been up here for, I don't know, like a solid month now, possibly even longer. So the first segment of content, as I said, will be released on Friday, the 1st of March. So I will put the link in the description to where you can enroll. Obviously, if you are enrolling before the 1st of March, you're not going to see any content on the dashboard. So just bear in mind, like, you know, sign up, oh, there's nothing here. It will be released on the 1st of March. And as I said, roughly once a week from there on out until you've got a full library, essentially, of lots and lots of good stuff. And in the meantime, if you kind of want to warm up and get a little bit more introduced to Santa Muerte, you can purchase part 1, and that will give you just a rundown of lots of the basics. So on there, I've got I'm just trying to remember where it starts. So I go into her history, and then I go into offerings, altar setup, spells and rituals, novenas, book recommendations, and I also did a little bit on like how to kind of detach from the Catholic current. Okay, so if you want to kind of warm up a little bit, that's there as well. But yeah, until then, I'm also going to post the link to the mailing list for Life and Death as well, for those of you that are still interested in that and want to sign up to the mailing list and receive a consultation form.
So in regards to getting acquainted with Santa Muerte, I will be available for consultations as well. If you want to contact me, you will find my Instagram link in the description. So just send me a message and we'll get something sorted out. As Dyra said, also in regards to the Tree of Life and Death, I would say that is a great starting off point, really, for anything. So you can work through both systems, if you will, alongside Santa Muerte, because I've got a funny feeling she'll be showing up for some people in that course as well. So there is definitely a crossover potential.
Totally, totally. Yeah, I would be surprised if she didn't show up. I know that she definitely will for people. So yes, these two kind of learning programs are interlinked in ways. So yeah, as Rob just said, his links will also be in the description, so you can contact him for consultation to become acquainted with Santa Muerte. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, for watching. Um, I'll do the typical YouTuber thing of please like and subscribe to my channel, and I will leave it there.